Amen. Okay. So now
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. All right. So can you guys just for now, can you just keep your mics off, please? Can you just take your mics off? All right. So Ato, you can keep your own on and myself and everybody else can take your mic off, please. Yeah. Okay, can you take your mics off, please, everybody? Can you take your mics off? Yeah. Pleasant afternoon, everybody. My name is Dion Lafoucade, and I'd like to welcome you to the There is Hope motivational series. And this afternoon, we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Ato Boldon, a former Olympian extraordinaire, I would add. All right, Ato is so happy to have you. But before we start, I'm going to start off with a prayer. So, dear God, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having Ato with us. We also pray for those people who are going through whatever trials right now in their lives. We want to thank you and say that, Lord, you help them in whatever way you have to help them. In Yeshua's name we pray, amen. Okay, so Ato, welcome to the There is Hope Show. So happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
So Ato, what I want to start off by asking you is, with regards to our theme, what does it mean, there is hope? How does that resonate with you?
Well, first of all, my mother's name is Hope, so I couldn't very well have declined the invitation after seeing what the name of the program is. But I think for me, it's changed lately, huh? I used to, it may surprise people, but I used to sometimes be a kind of woe is me, why is this happening to me type of person. And it is the example of the actor Michael J. Fox, who, as most of you will know, has been what's the name of his affliction that causes him to shake? I believe it's Parkinson's. Is it Parkinson's that he has? Yeah.
I think so, yes. I think so.
Yeah, and he wrote the most amazing book, and essentially the theme of the book is how has he survived? How has he, remained cheerful, remained upbeat? And he says he finds the gratitude in everything. And what that there is hope for me is very, very closely connected to my attitude of finding gratitude in everything. I'll give you a recent example. Flying home from some broadcast the other day, and I got the last flight out of town, rushed, made the flight, and then on my connection, something happened, and I didn't end up getting home until must see 2:30. Before I would have been so upset and now I look at it as, Ato, you will sleep in your bed tonight. Okay, you're not getting home at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, but you will get home and you'll get home safely and the sun will come up tomorrow. So I had to kind of shift my own outlook on life, so that it quite frankly it's more enjoyable, because I can be I think that was something I identified in my personality, and I was like, your life is not bad. You live a fantastic life. So stop trying to find problems where there are none. So that to me, when I see that, that's how it relates to me.
Okay, well said. Well said. Ato, what I want to ask you to do, obviously everybody knows you, you're world famous, you're a broadcaster, but I want you to talk us through your journey as a young person growing up, young person all the way through. Just talk us through that journey a little bit, please.
Well, I didn't realize that I grew up in paradise until I left, to be quite honest. I think in the way that if I was born very rich, or if I was born very poor, or if I was born on a remote island in the back of the Pacific, you don't understand what your circumstances are because you have nothing to compare it to, I guess, so to speak. So I grew up in, upper middle class home. I had a computer by the time I was 8 or 9. I was sent off to trips to America every summer. And to me, because so many of my friends lived that life, I thought that's how everybody lived. I thought that's how everybody grew up. So I lived a very charmed life. I didn't really show a lot of athletic ability until I was in my late teens, but in my early life, I think everybody who was around me would not be surprised to see me making my living speaking today, first of all. They might have been a little surprised that I somehow found a way to make my living running. And that's the only two things I've done for a living is run and talk. They always knew I could talk. The running came, the running came after. So to me, it was kind of pre-leaving Trinidad and post-leaving Trinidad. Obviously, everybody, would be familiar with my sort of path through Trinidad. I went to Newtown Boys, which was a fabulous school. I mean, more I look at, my daughters now go to private school and stuff, and I realize, wow, the kind of money that I have to pay for private school still is inferior to what the kind of education that I got for free growing up during that time in Trinidad. So again, very fortunate I always consider myself very fortunate to be born where I was born and to have the path that I had up until that time, because it really was, it had not a care in the world. It was, common entrance, but I kind of breezed through common entrance. It was, yes, you had the pressure of common entrance, but it was also plenty football, plenty running, plenty laughter. Life was good. I think I had to grow up a little bit when I left Trinidad. So around that time, my parents split up and life now starts to become a little more real. So I leave with my parents, with my mother, and go off to New York and deal with winter, deal with the cold, deal with America. But at that point, my athletic gifts come around, and maybe I think for the first time I realized, okay, I have my gifts. My gifts are here. What am I going to do with them? And from there, I kind of find my way into track and field, and from there until from about 91 when I start running, or 90 when I start running, to 2004, my whole life is track and field, and that's when everybody sort of learns my name and I win my medals and so on. But I look back at my childhood in Trinidad and feel very blessed to have had the path that I had, because you realize, hey, everybody didn't grow up the way you grew up. Everybody didn't get the same education you grew up in. So it really makes me grateful when I look back.
So I tell you, you said that you sort of your later teens, you sort of took athletics more seriously. Your earlier teens, what was it for you? Football, cricket, basketball, what was it for you?
I was never even any good at cricket. Plus, when you go to high school with Brian Lara, it didn't encourage me, because you look at Brian and go, okay, I will never be that with a cricket bat. So I always tell people, because my childhood friends are Brian Lara and Marshall Montano, I knew I wasn't going to sing soca, and I knew I wasn't going to play cricket, because those two things, when you see two people who are that good that early at it, and I didn't show that kind of prodigious talent in anything. So, no, I was doing what kids that age do. I wanted to be Diego Maradona, because that was the football player of the time. And you're kicking ball my mother reminds me now of just how athletic I was. She said, you ran like a 10K, and then I came to pick you up, and you were like, Mom, you could go somewhere and come back, because I'd done a 10K, played something else, and then played a whole series of football matches. She's like, you had a capacity for work, for athleticism back then, that she not even sure that she realized. Of course, when you become an adult and you say, hey, this is, somebody who did things that a lot of people didn't do in track and field, you can kind of draw the line backwards. But yeah, like I said, life was good.
I want to jolt your memory a little bit. Where did that love for track and field take place? Or is that something you always had? Or at what point, if you could remember, where did that start? This is what I want to do. This is what I love. This is what I'm going to put 100% in. Where did that start?
I think for me, I have always had to see somebody else do something and go, okay, that's what I want to do. It wasn't like I came out of the crowd, out of the crib and said, yeah, on your mark, set, go. Two people in particular, names that you may or may not remember. The first one is Keston Wright, who played first 11 for us, but was also a phenomenal sprinter, who I have told since then, Keston, I saw you run and I was like, that's what I want to do. The other person is Sheldon Guerra, who was a quarter mile, 400, 800 guy for Fatima back in the day. I don't know how far he went, but I saw him and he had these long limbs, and I wasn't a tall guy, but I always looked at him and said, that's what I wanted to do. But it was really kindled when I went to the States, and one summer I was sitting down watching World Championships in 91. This is the battle between Carl Lewis and Mike Powell for the long jump world title. It's still the world record in the long jump. And I just saw the excitement and I was like, that's what I want to do. And at the time I was running a little bit, but that was the final sort of straw. I was like, that is what I want to do. And then I started to look back and say, okay, what is my country's history? Where do I want to represent? And all of those decisions had to be made at that point.
And so that passion, as you say, watching Keston and Sheldon, that passion came out like, hey, I want to be like those guys and be able to run as fast as them. And so, but
yeah, because they were so cool. It was like, and I look back now and I'm like, Keston had some weird form, but he was intense and he was so good at football. This is back in the days when kids strove to be well-rounded. Now they want to be great in one thing. I grew up in the era of the guys who I wanted to emulate are the guys who were class prefects, upper six, lower six, could play cricket, could play football, did well academically. That's who I wanted to be. And Keston and those guys, I looked at them and said, that's the way a young man should carry himself. That's the way a young man should be. You should be great at sports, but you should also be fantastic in the classroom.
And then you went to your mom and you said, Mom, get me into a running club, because you said you moved to New York. So did you go to your mom and say, Mom, get me in a running club? Or were you identified by a athletic club in America? How did that work out?
Yeah, the latter. I moved to New York and I was playing football with, now I'm in New York, and now it's kind of different because, one of the things about going to high school in Trinidad is that you are with the same group of people for so long that those bonds, some of them form permanently. And you realize that that's a big difference between here and in Trinidad. I moved here and got discovered in New York and went to my mother and said, hey, I need these $200 pair of spikes. And she was like, you better find one that is a little bit more economical, because I'm not spending that money. I mean, $200 back then, not like now where $200 is not. She said, no, find one a little lower down the catalog. And yeah, sure, I will buy it for you. And that was it. Because I had sort of, you see, when you move to a new country and a new school and you don't know anybody, the sports kind of gets you into the right social circles. Because I was the kid from Trinidad with the accent, and you kind of stand out. And in high school, you don't always want to stand out. So the sports got me accepted. And then once I kind of made my name as a footballer, then okay, let's do it. Let's do it now with the track and field. And I took it very quickly. And a lot of my old Trinidad sensibilities, I think, came back, and it's why I did pretty well quickly in track and field.
Talk us through high school. So I'm guessing you would have been maybe a sophomore, junior, or senior. Talk us through high school a little bit. Was it that, did they say, Ato, you have potential, or were you just one of the regular guys that on the track team?
No, when I first started, I didn't think I showed any real prodigious talent. As I said, my athletic gifts came late. So yeah, I joined the team at, 15? And I was doing well, but let's say I was in the top third, but I was not the top. And but I was good at it, and I have a determination, which, you know, I am the person who will, nobody's going to outwork me. That's the thing I don't ever get credit for. Because people think, well, he good at track, and you know, he show up and he run and you win medals. That's not how it, especially in track and field, which is an extremely difficult sport to train for. So I I took the track and field. I think track and field worked for me at the time because I was wanting, I love playing football, but I didn't like this whole thing of I could have a good game and the goalkeeper have a bad game and we lose. That never made sense to me. And the guy who recruited me to track said, how would you like to control the outcome? And that was literally kind of in my head too. So yeah, so it moved quickly once I committed.
And then once you committed, was it getting the more expensive running shoes? And was it that the school said, I think we have a state or regional athlete on our hands, or was it that you were still in the top three?
No, by the end of my first year, I made it to the state championship. And I got third. That was New York. And that was a big deal back then, to have somebody have a state medal. I mean, it's the whole of New York State. So that was kind of a big deal. I didn't realize how big a deal it was. I was going till I didn't win anymore. I think what made it more special is that I actually started off in the 400 and the 200 and won the 400 at the city level, excuse me, at the county level, and then did okay at the city level. I think I got third at the city level, and then went to state and did third. So it kind of showed that, okay, he was a championship performer. He won in Queens. He was on the podium for the city, and then he went to state and was a state medalist. So I felt like because I did well early, it gave me the incentive to keep going.
And living in New York and in the US, why did you think at that time, I'm going to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the Olympics? Or was it still, well, was there a link back and forth, or no, you were just like, well, I'm going to do my stuff here? Or how did that work?
Funny enough, I actually felt like, because I had such reverence for the Keston Bledmans and of course the not Bledman, Keston Wright, and Adrian Bob, of course, who went to Fatima with me too, who was a brilliant character performer. I always felt like, yeah, I'm doing well, but I'm not fast enough to go back home and make that team. So I actually had to be convinced and coerced to go back home. By now I'm 18. I've just left high school, and I had to be convinced to go back home because I think at that point I'd run 10:22. And in my mind, in the 100, and in my mind, 10:22 would have been, you know, in the back of the pack in Trinidad. And my athletic director called me and he was like, I have the world list here. I don't see anybody who is faster than 10:22 with at the time, TRI next to it. And I thought, okay. And I went back home at 18 and made the Olympic team. The rest was history.
And coming back home, of course, you know, working in training in the US and training back home, is there a comparison in terms of facilities, or no, not really?
It wasn't like I had no great facilities. I mean, I learned to run on a cinder track. I learned to start on concrete with ice on it, that we had to chip away the ice just to get some actual terra firma. So it wasn't like when I went out to California, things get a little bit better. But in New York City I would say New York City made me tough. So no, when I come back home, it's not like I have this big disparity between, oh, I have these phenomenal facilities in the States and Trinidad, not so much. No, they were about the same. They were about the same back then.
So with your obviously, so you went back to Trinidad and you made the Olympic team. Was there, in terms of potential, did you feel, well, okay, I'm running for Trinidad, it's a little easier to run for Trinidad and Tobago. Did you see the potential in terms of, I'm actually going to medal the Olympics, or was it, I'm just going to take part? To talk us through the different Olympics?
You know, that's funny because I think there's a perception that Ato ran for TNT because it was the easier path, and that was the last thing on my mind at the time. That's the perception. Here's the reality. The reality is you can count on two fingers the number of Americans that ever beat me in the Olympics. Maurice Green, Michael Johnson. That's it. So it's not like I looked at the US and went, oh my gosh, the US is so hard to make the team that I could never make the team. No. Would I have made the team at 18? Absolutely not. Would I have made the next team? Absolutely. No American beat me in the 100 in Atlanta, as you recall. The medals were Canada, Namibia, TNT. So I actually never made a decision to run for TNT based on the easier path. I made it based on, and I've always had I have it as a broadcaster and I had it as an athlete. I always had a sense of who is this going to be more important to? And I looked back at Trinidad, and once I started to understand the history of our sport, and I went, okay, so we had this golden era of, Wendell, Mutley, and that crew in the 60s, Kent Bernard and those guys who had the world record. And at the tail end of that, we have Hazley. And then there was this huge gap. 0 medals in the Olympics. We hadn't gotten anything in the World Championships. And I just looked at that, and I mean, if you can look up some of my earliest quotes, and I looked at that and I went, well, I could change this. I feel like I can stop this drought. I can start a sort of a new era. So it was never a case of where I'm a navel string bearer or anything like that. It was literally, I had the opportunity. I could run for Jamaica at the same time because my mother was talking that. She was talking that line at the time. And I just kind of looked at my 3 choices and went, oh no, this is Jamaica. Jamaica ain't gonna never have problems with medals, and neither is the United States. And I knew enough about the US to know that they don't revere their sprinters, and certainly their track and field athletes, the way that they would an NBA player or an NFL player or even a baseball player. So no, that whole decision was based on where I thought it would count more.
And talking about Wendell, Mutley, and Hazley Crawford, you're getting to meet these guys eventually. What can you share with us? Any words that they gave you that you held on to, like, wow, this is going to be so inspiring for me?
When I met Hazley, I was not yet running, so he would have never said that to me at the time.
Okay.
I met him because at the time he was working with Adrian Bob, and I remember him being at the event, and everybody's like, "Oh, look, Hazley, school children." And I don't even know if we had actually met. I remember like kind of walking with him across the road to go to the grounds. But I would meet Hazley very early in my like when I came back home and made the team at 18. And I would meet Wendell Mutley a little bit after, and they were both very, very supportive at the time. I think at the time they must have looked at me and went, well, he certainly talks a good game. We're gonna see if he could run. And and I think once I had made the team at 18 and I think they kind of said, okay, this like he might actually be able to run something.
I want you to stress, you spoke a little earlier about the word determination.
Yeah.
Talk us through how determination got you to where you eventually got to, but can you give an example?
We have 12 participants in this chat. If the only thing you take home from this little talk is this one thing, let it be what I'm about to say here, because it's the thing where I am now 50, and I look in the rearview mirror and I go, what has separated you in your mind from some of the people you've had to not bad competition, good competition? What has separated you from some of the people that you have had to compete against to get where you are in your life? And it is that because I have always been able to properly direct my passion. If you are passionate about something, the determination becomes almost built in. So it wasn't like I was trying. Some people say, well, it's like me saying, okay, I want to play center for the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, I am 5 feet 9 inches tall. That is not going to be in my future. So no matter how determined you are, I was not going to play center for the Los Angeles Lakers. However, I could run. And I figured out very early that sometimes success is just a matter of quitting last or not quitting at all. So I would be one of those people where it was like, okay, if you think you tough and you think you tough and you over there think you tough, well, let's go. Because if I stop last, if I outlast all of you, I win. So I look back at my own life, and this is not just sports related, this is life related, it's certainly broadcast related. I have always had a capacity to kind of keep myself going, even when it did not look like the outcome was assured. And now I talk to young people and I tell them, okay, what if we could give you a glimpse into your own future? And what if we can show you, hey, look, kind of like the a Christmas Carol, we're looking in the future, and there you in the future, and you've made it. If you can convince yourself that you're going to make it, and if you wake up every morning with the belief that you will make it, not the belief you put on social media, like, yeah, I really believe. Belief that's inside, not belief that's outside. Belief that's in. If you are able to do that, you're going to beat so many people. Because human nature for a lot of people is that when things start to get difficult, they go, all right, I think I'm done with this. And you know how I know? Because I am around a sports facility, which is where I train my athletes and where I myself train. Every January 2nd, we see what the gym looks like. You can't get a spot on a machine every January 2nd. You know how long it takes for that gym to go back to normal? Usually about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm reminded every year of, and listen, I'm not judging those people, but it's a reminder for me every year that everybody starts out. It's easy to have the passion when things are early in the game or when things are going your way. Usually, as soon as a little resistance is added, people go, and they're trying to find the exit route. And that, I have never had that. I am always convinced, just stay on the road. Just put one foot in front of the other. Yeah, you may not travel a whole mile today. Maybe today is only 100 feet. But keep going. Keep going. So when I talk to these young people and I tell them, look, if you already knew that this journey is going to result in something that is favorable and positive for you, then you wouldn't be too worried about the day-to-day. It's like, oh, well, I didn't make so much progress today. That's okay. The sun will come up tomorrow and you have another chance to make some more progress. So I think that, and especially now where I think people want the instant gratification. Everybody's an influencer. Everybody's rich according to social media. Everybody is rich. Everybody's an influencer. Everybody has a perfect body. Everybody has perfect lashes. Everybody's relationship is perfect. There's an immense amount of pressure on young people where they're like, but how come this isn't happening for me yet? How come my blank don't look like this? How come, my bank account don't look like this? And it's like, that stuff is all artificial. It has the motivation, has to come from inside. It really can't be an external kind of motivation.
Ato, I'm going to remind you of something. The one time you came back to train for Trinidad and Tobago at the stadium, and all the athletes were out there with you on the track training, and the rain fell.
I know this story. I tell it all the time. Go ahead.
Ato, I was there actually, and I was amazed, and I've actually used it quite many times. The rain fell, and tell us what you did, Ato. I'll let you tell the story.
Okay, so it's one of my favorite stories, not because of the me side of it, but this is again the human nature side of it. This was after 1997. So I had just won Trinidad and Tobago's first World Championship, second Trinidad and Tobago World Championship medal, but first gold. Now, mind you, we only have one more individual gold past that, which is Jehu. The other World Championship goals that we have are in the relay. So to date, we still only have two. I came back home to train I probably had a meet or two somewhere back in Europe, and I came back home and I was on the track, and I was kind of trying to stay out of the way, to be honest. So I was on the far side of the track because I didn't want people to like feel like, oh, let me go and bother him, because again, I was there to train. So I am warming up. If the track is packed, the warm-up area is packed, the track is packed. And I'm warming up, and the rain starts to fall. And everybody runs for the shelter. And of course, I'm oblivious to it because I'm a professional. And I finish my warm-up, and I am now doing my workout. And everybody's in the stand sheltering. And I think one by one, it kind of occurred to them, Olia, this is our first world champion, and he is working out in the rain, and we sheltering. And one by one, everybody kind of like, and ease their way back down onto the track. Like, I'm sorry, is rain going to kill you? What is rain going to prevent? I know we're from the Caribbean. We think that if the rain fall on you, you're going to get sick. But I think it was, and I noticed it after the fact, and I kind of laughed to myself like, oh, you kind of saw the gap between amateur and professional, because yeah, everybody ran away from the rain. And they were kind of forced to, it's like, okay, so now everybody's in the stands, and it's one person, not two. There's one person on the track, and it happens to be the person who you just saw won the world championship. So yeah, maybe if you want to be where he is one day, maybe go back and not study the rain too much. But yeah, it's funny that you were there that day, because I remember that story, and I tell it to young athletes every now and then.
And then, of course, when you're training Ato in Trinidad and Tobago, the climate is generally the same. Give us an idea of training in different climates. Give us an idea what that's like.
Well, it goes back to me talking about how New York made me tough. New York high schools start to they run outdoors from like April. April is not always warm in New York City. So I remember those days of, oh my gosh, it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and yeah, all this strip down and get ready to run. I had never experienced that. I had never experienced those kind of temperatures, because I'd always come to the States in the summer. I had certainly never experienced competing in that kind of in those kind of conditions. So yeah, I was never a great cold weather sprinter in my career. That happened towards the end, when I had to it's like, okay, I have to get over yourself. Everybody else running the same temperature. But yeah, I was glad for those moments for those meets of having to run in frigid temperatures, because you realize, hey, you live in the States, this is your reality now.
And Ato, you talked a little bit just now about determination, but I want to talk a little bit about your injuries. Was the injuries, and talk us through that period, because sometimes when people get injuries, they think their world is over and that stuff. Talk us through a little bit about injuries and dealing with injuries.
I was fortunate. I had one injury that kept me from missing a major. That was in '99. And it just so happens that was the start of my broadcasting career. So I got very fortunate with that. Funny enough, I was injured at the Olympic trials that first time coming back at 18. And I always remember one of those officials coming up to me. Of course, I am 18. I do not understand entry politics and TNT drama. I remember I had won the 100, and I was limping a little bit, and the guy came up to me, and he was like, "Don't limp. They ain't gonna pick you. Don't limp." I remember thinking, don't limp. My leg is bothering me a little bit. I was very fortunate. I really was not injured often. As I said, I only missed one major championship because of an injury. But I was actually a always me kind of person when I got injured, because it didn't happen often. But towards the end of my career, I learned how to fix injuries here. Because the truth is, the physical part of you will heal long before this, and I have it now with my budding NFL players, because it's an 8-week course, and it's very intense, and those guys, something wrong, oh, my hamstring, and I said to them, get in that pool and move that leg quickly with the resistance of the water through the through its range of movement in the pool. And that's what I would do, because yeah, I had to repair in here the fact that I could fire the leg either forward or backwards. and it wasn't going to affect the hamstring anymore. So I was relatively lucky with injuries that I don't have. Only towards the end after my car accident and so on did that sort of forced me out because I was fed up of being injured. But during my career, I really did not have a lot of injury woes.
So to the thousands of people that I'm sure are going to see this interview, you talked a little bit about mentality. Would you say the majority of sport is mental, or is it the actual sport itself, the technical, the tactical, the physical? How does mental play a part in sport for you, Ato?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I said something and I thought I said it because I had heard it somewhere, and it turns out to be an original. Because when I Google it now, it comes up with my name. Oh, I thought I thought I was repeating that. I guess I had said it originally. What I said was champions are convinced. And you look around at people who win, and not champions of just sport, people who are winners. And they all have that sort of a mindset, right? When I love to look back at the early pictures of Jeff Bezos in his little setup there with his dot matrix printed thing that says HTTP :// www.amazon.com. Could you imagine how many people doubted him then? Well, we have an idea of how many people doubted him. He asked, I think, 3 family members to give him $10,000 to help launch his, I remember at the time, Amazon was only selling books. 2 of the family members accepted, and I think the other one did not. The 2 family members, the stock is worth more than $1 billion now. But I look at that picture and I read that scenario, and I think to myself, imagine the determination you have to pretty much launch your entire to bet your entire future on this idea that you have that you know is going to work. And look at where Amazon is now. So I am always inspired by people who overcome odds, people who if they had told you their dream on the day they conceived it, you'd have been like, well, something had to be wrong with you. You ought to be a mad person. Those are the kind of dreams that I have always set for myself and continue to set. People look at me now, they have no idea what's coming from me in the next 10 years, because I have decided that, okay, I am kind of cruising at a nice altitude now. Maybe I'm at 36,000 feet. I want to know what's up there at 50,000 and 60,000 and 80,000 up into the stratosphere. That is, to me, the philosophy that always has allowed me to dream. You know, that saying where they say if your dreams don't scare you, they're not set. If your goals don't scare you, they're not set high enough. That is, it's repeated ad nauseum now, but I feel like that's the one sort of cliche that I wish people would adopt. But it's like most people set their goals and it's like, and that's never been me. So I've been thankful for that.
Maria, who is on with us, she's convinced that champions are convinced. She wants to convince you of something. Maria, go ahead and unmute her ask and convince him of what you need to convince him of.
No, not to convince. So, Ato, are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take you back to 2001 World Championships in Edmonton.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So I was there. I had just moved up to Edmonton, and I walked with the biggest Trini flag, and I went with my brother's friend who had the biggest mouth ever. So we were cheering you on, and I think it had a relay team. And I don't know if you remember, you in your victory lap, you threw your shade.
Yes. Don't make joke. You have to be making a joke. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yes, actually you threw it, and I was way high up, and the lady in front of me caught it. And I was like, tap, tap, tap. Excuse me, she threw it for me. Hand it over. Hand it over.
And clearly she gave it to you.
She gave it to me. That was 23 years.
So
And
23 years later, like, are they in good condition? Like, is the lens like? I'm like, I feel like I need to send you like a new lens or something. So let me ask you a question. So do you actually wear those? Okay, let me see. Is the O on them black? The O on the top, is it black or is it white?
The lenses need to be I don't know, on the top or the O over here.
Oh, it's white. Okay, yeah. No, that's a very special pair. Very good for you. Good for you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are the lenses all like they scratch free and everything?
Well, they're a little scratch because my brother borrowed them.
I bet he did.
One time my nephew came, Auntie, I have a volleyball competition. Can I borrow it? And then he had it, and my other nephew had it. That was 4 years ago. I was like, okay, can I borrow it too? Because my son wants to use it. So my son now, he's played in the, or he's part of the TNT team for soccer. He's a goalie. Mm-hmm. He has it, and he's been running in Victoria with it.
Wow.
His shades are popular.
That makes my whole day. Dion, this is the best part about people ask, what's the best part about being you? You see that kind of stuff? It's the best part about what my life has been, because people will meet me in the back of Switzerland, Germany, Kenya, and they go, hey, I saw you, or I met you, or you did this, that, and it's like, and it's a life memory for them. Thank you for that, Maria. That makes my whole day to see that, because that's a long time ago now.
Yeah, and thank you. You don't know how many people. I'm like, I have Ato shades, and they're like, what?
Amazing.
And then I give them these stories. So I told Dion, I said, Dion, I want to ask Ato. He's like, I don't know if you'll remember that. Everybody's
That's
like,
crazy.
do you remember?
I had to be after the relay because I was so upset after the 100. In the 100, I was fourth across the line. I was eventually upgraded to bronze because they had to disqualify Tim Montgomery for taking drugs. But I remember, I know I would not have thrown them glasses after the 100 because I'd have been upset. But the relay it's funny that relay, most people, if you look at any interview, if they ask me the greatest moment of my career, it's the relay. Because I was upset about the 100. I knew Tim Montgomery probably was not above board, and that had bothered me even more. And I said to myself, all right, Ato, stop feeling sorry for yourself. What are you going to do to leave here with a medal? And I decided, that 4x1. And Dion, you will remember this, that relay had a 17-year-old Darrell Brown, an 18-year-old Mark Burns, a 19-year-old JC Harper, and me, the old man at 26. And I went and I shook Gunnis Prasad hand, and I said, Gunnis, you know me and you's good on good. Just let me do my thing. And Gunnis was like, fine, and gave me the baton. And I convinced those three other guys that we were getting a medal. And at the time, you have to remember, Trinidad and Tobago had never won a medal, Worlds or Olympics, in the 4x1. Never. And I got those three young guys, and I was like, let me tell you what's going to happen. We are going to get these handoffs, right? And all these other big squads going to drop the baton, and we're going to be on that podium. And by the time we ran, they were convinced that we could do it. And sure enough, Brazil dropped the baton, and the US got DQ'd. Well, they got DQ'd retroactively. And yeah, first medal we ever got, silver medal at Worlds. And that's why I threw the glasses, and she and Maria has them.
Wow. Wow, that's some history then. So she's convinced.
That's not a story I thought I would be telling today, but here we are.
I tell you talked about disappointment. Talk us through if at another time something that disappointed you other than that, and how you dealt with disappointment. You all worked up to go for this meet and something happened. Talk us through that, please.
My whole career was disappointment, right? It was Ato chasing this gold medal at the Olympic Games. Yes, he got his gold medal at Worlds, but it was the pursuit of this elusive thing was the pursuit of this thing that had only happened once in our history. Now we have three. I always felt like it was a blessing to be able to be in the chase. So while I think the outside was, well, Ato get silver, oh, Ato get bronze again, to me it was like, but I have another shot to go and try again. You see, once it's done, now you know it's over and you have no, but while I was in it, I think that's why so many of my triumphs are right after disappointment. Yes, we talked about the gold medal in the 200 in Athens in 97, but remember, I was supposed to win the 100 and cramped up and got fifth in that. So I always had this redemption after disappointment, and the reason why is because, and my manager calls it the Bat Cave. The Bat Cave is where I went when things went really badly. I think all of us have the Bat Cave maybe differs for us. But for me, it means don't call me, don't knock on my door, don't talk to me. I need to be with me and my feelings and my thoughts. But when I come out of the Bat Cave, I'm going to be ready to fight again. So after that 100 in Athens, I was in the Bat Cave. And yes, I was upset because I felt like an opportunity had slipped through my hands, just like Atlanta the year before in the 100. But I was able to get up, go back out there, fight. At the time, I mean, I don't know how athletes do it now. I can't imagine the social media noise. Be like, oh God, Ato choke, whatever the criticism would have been, which is par for the course when you're a professional athlete. I would have known that was happening. But I always felt grateful because it was like, yeah, okay, so things didn't go, and that's how my coach was too. Okay, so things didn't go your way. Well, guess what? For 7 people in the race, for everybody who didn't even make the finals, things didn't go their way either. We're going to do mope and cry, pick yourself back up, and go back out there and fight again. And I think it's what gave me the collection of medals that I have, even if all of them aren't necessarily color I would want.
Ato, that is so brilliant because as for the young people, and again, I say for the thousands that are going to listen to this, they need to hear that because a lot of them feel that, well, I didn't get a gold, so I'm not worth anything. But you know what? I love how you put it. 7 other people in the race didn't get anything. I got something at least.
It is why the medals that I treasure are the bronze ones. And Jerry Seinfeld has a brilliant routine about this. If you go to YouTube and type in Jerry Seinfeld silver medals, it's one of his best routines. When you get silver, you go, but the gold was right there. If I lean a little bit better, gold. Bronze medals, you treasure more because you go, hey, I mean, I'll give you a good example. My final Olympic medal is a bronze, right, from Sydney. It's the one I treasure the most. Here's why. 99, I'm injured. 2000, my leg never really feels like it's 100%. I go through the 100, I get the silver in the 100, lose to Maurice in the Olympics. And then I decide, do I really want to run this 200? Because the leg not right, the emotion of the 100, which I have lost, I have the silver. I'm grateful for the silver, but it's not a gold. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I done, because I don't want to leave here in no stretcher. I don't want to leave here in no wheelchair. And I call a meeting with my family, my mother, my wife at the time, and we sit down, and my mother kind of looks at me like, so for the rest of your life, you're going to tell the story of how you came to the Olympics and sat in the stands and didn't even attempt to win your 4th medal. And when she put it like that, I was like, and I got my behind back out there and went and fought. Now, here's where it relates to the gratitude. Obadeli Thompson's in that race. And he had just won his country's first medal in the 100. That's Barbados' first Olympic medal. It's a bronze. And he, of course, he's like over the moon because he's like me 4 years ago in Atlanta where I get the first medal since Hazley. Oba and I ran down that home straight away, step for step for step, because Kenteris was gone and Darren Campbell was gone because they hadn't run the 100. We had, so we were tired. My leg wasn't good. And I am running. And I kind of throw myself at the line and I get bronze and Oba does not. And he only has one Olympic medal. So for the rest of his life, he got fourth and I got third. It kind of changes how you look at that medal. So yeah, you look at your medal and you go, oh, I didn't get gold. Yeah, I could have been fourth that night. So I think I always had this sense of, yeah, that's all right. I understand that Olympic medals don't grow on trees. And yes, there's a perception that, you know, as my favorite character, Ricky Bobby says, if you're not first, you're last. But but that's not how life is. If you're not first and last in life, you're not necessarily last.
So Ato, you know, for the athletes who obviously look up to you, and so many people look up to you here and abroad, if they're thinking about taking some enhancement drugs, what you going to say to them? What advice? Because they're thinking about it. Maybe I could hide this and hide that. And what advice you have for them?
That, you know, I wish I got to talk more openly during my career about that, but I think back then there wasn't this kind of transparency that you have with athletes now, where the minute the drugs thing is discussed, every athletes kind of head for the door. I would love to be able to touch on that for a while. I think if you are a competitive person and I had the perception that, yeah, everybody's not necessarily everybody doesn't necessarily look at sports the way I did. And I saw a lot of my friends admit later on to taking drugs, whether it is Dwayne Chambers or Tim Montgomery, there are others. That was actually a conscious decision by me to not go in that direction. And I'll tell you why. I was always raised in a way where your reputation is the thing that you guard above everything else. And I think if for me, I had this perception of, well, the only thing I ever want to do in life is to run. So if I ruin my reputation by cheating, getting caught, and having, well, back then it wasn't cancel culture, but it certainly would have not been good for my name and my brand. Then maybe the decision would have been easy. Well, I'll take my chances. I never had that decision because for me, I was like, okay, first of all, I run for TNT. So ain't nobody protecting me because I don't have the perception back when I ran was, if you run for a big country, maybe they'll protect you. That was my perception when I was an athlete. I obviously did not run for no big country. And I was, again, only lost to 2 Americans in the Olympics. So if anything, I was the foil for all the big superstars. So I had nobody to protect me. That was the first thing. The second thing was I didn't feel like it was worth it. And I am now living proof that it's not worth it because I literally walked off of the track into the broadcast booth and all the other things that I have done now because my reputation, I was not an Olympic gold medalist. I was not the fastest man ever. I did not have a world record. But somehow I was able to transition because of what my name stood for and because of what I stood for prior to leaving my sport. So now that I am 20 years into my broadcast career, this is my 20th year on the air. I only ran professionally for 10 years. So I've now done this for twice as long. But this would not be possible if I had cut corners in my past life. And I look at somebody, I look at sprinters now who maybe have kind of a checkered past and they're trying to get hired doing other things now. And people go, can't align you with my brand. And I go, oh, that's the price you pay. So yeah, that was a conscious decision for me. But it was a conscious decision I think I made in the right way.
So then, so talk a little bit about integrity, because you alluded to that. Talk a little bit about the integrity that somebody needs to possess.
Integrity is doing stuff the right way when nobody's watching. That is never going to change for me. It's like, okay, and that's why I love like the story that Maria told. Is so heartwarming to me because how do you interact with people who you don't need anything from? That's how I guide my, right? How do you talk to valet parkers? How do you talk to a housekeeper? How do you talk to a receptionist? How do you talk to a child? How do you talk to a fan? That to me, and credit Hope Boldon, I think for this, it's like, don't shame your mother, don't shame your father, don't shame your family, don't shame your family name. And listen, there's been things, there are things to this day. I have this little rule where when I am going to type something or say something or do something, I think of, if it goes badly, what the headline will be the day after, right? TNT sprinter caught in massive fraud scheme, and I literally will sound out and picture what the headline is, and you go, ooh, I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my country. So that has always been kind of my governor of make sure you're a public person. And the good thing about representing TNT is I have had to, we all know that TNT is not an easy place to be a public person because everything is a joke. But I value being in the public eye since I am 18, because I see athletes who maybe you don't get famous until you are 22, 23, 24, and they can't handle it. Because it happened for me so early, I have always had this sense of, no, I kind of grew up from the time I was a teenager having to deal with people watching you, people judging you, people looking to you as an example, whether or not you care or whether or not you are aware of it. And it I think it shaped my behavior from a very early age.
So you actually went into humility. So I wanted to continue because you talk a lot about humility there. I want to talk about it, Ato, please.
The funny thing is that for the perception of me, certainly in my career, was he cocky and he arrogant. And I don't think people realize that that was a function of what I did for a living. That is not me. And that's why I guess the best way to put it is I always had a very clear wall between who I was and what I did for a living. And yes, what I did for a living, I had to talk the game and convince myself. And you see headlines and you go, whoa, that man confident. Yes, because that you are in an individual sport where to become a world champion, you have to actually compete against the world. I don't think people even realize. It's like, listen, I love cricket. Cricket is played well by maybe what, 15 countries? So cricket is not track and field. Football is a better sort of barometer where, okay, everybody have a football team. Track and field is a very unique sport, you know. Even if you compare it to like gymnastics or swimming, those are sports that take money. When you become an Olympic champion, it's a fantastic achievement for those sports. But think of how many people in the world don't have a pool, will never see a pool. Gymnastics, forget it. The apparatus you need to do that, track and field is different. Shoes or not, everybody on the planet runs. So it means when you are the world champion or you're the Olympic champion, you literally have the entire rest of the world behind you. So I always felt like it was a privilege to be able to do what I did. And yes, so now it shouldn't surprise you to hear me say this, because the truth is that who I was as an athlete and who I was as a human being has never been the same person.
No, totally understandable too. And that's well said, Ato. And give us an idea from a psychological point of view, what it was like running next to some of the big names, the real big names, the guys who have the posters and the this and the that, and tell us some of the big names you ran against.
I ran against all of them. My career arc is like most other people's. The people who you looked up to then became your rivals. So for me, Linford Christie, Olympic champion 92. Frankie Fredericks, world champion 93. Maurice Green, Olympic champion and world champion several times over. Michael Johnson, Donovan Bailey, Dennis Mitchell, you name them, I ran against them. But you can't put people on a pedestal like that. And I tell young athletes that all the time. I remember when I was coaching Brianna, she said, "Oh my God, Shelly and Fraser Price." I said, "Yes, but you are ahead of where she was at this age." I said, "So you can't put us on a pedestal so much, such that you don't want to beat her, or you feel like you can't beat her, because that is the job that's the life you chose. You have to beat her." So I went through that. I remember I remember being in the Olympics in 92 and seeing Linford. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to him. He was in my heat. He's in the call room, eh?
Wow.
And I was like, hi, Mr. Christie. I'm a big fan. And he getting ready for his first round race, and he would eventually be the Olympic champion. And he kind of turned and looked at me like, and I got the message. Of course, Linford and I are like this now, so it's funny. Same thing, met Frankie Fredericks the first time. I was like, Mr. Fredericks, I see you have your name on your shoe. What kind of times I have to run to get my name on my shoe? Frankie was a little nicer. I probably caught him at a better time too. And he was like, well, I ran under 10 and I ran under 20, and my shoe sponsor put my name. And I remember thinking, all I want in my life is to have my name on my shoe like Frankie Fredericks. So I went through that phase of being the fanboy, and then you realize, I have to beat these guys if I'm going to be a medalist. And of course, Linford never beat me in a championship, which is amazing to me because he was such an amazing competitor. But to be honest, and to be fair to Linford is significantly older than I am. Linford is already in his early 60s. So Linford, I caught the tail end of Linford's career when he was on his way out. Frankie and I had some battles. I beat him at Worlds. He beat me at the Olympics. I beat him at Worlds. He beat me at the Olympics. So it was probably a little fairer fight with me and Frankie. But yeah, that's and what's funny about that is I have a lot of those guys' pictures up in my home, because it warms my heart to kind of be reminded of some of my battles. In fact, right in my office here is a picture of myself and Michael Johnson running in Stockholm. I like to and it's not a race that I won. I never beat Michael. Michael beat me, but I like looking at these pictures of me competing with these people who became my lifelong friends.
And I think you are so well spoken. What you'll say to young people who, I'm talented at sport and I really don't want to go the education route. I just wanted the sport to work for me. What you say to those young people?
I think my answer would have been different 30 years ago, and maybe even 20 years ago. Obviously, I am of the age where I grew up in an era where sports was always going to take a backseat. You beat your book, you pass common entrance, you get your O's, you get your A's, you get a scholarship, whatever. But tertiary education was not an option when I was coming up. As somebody who has his own children now and who has the benefit of 50 years of life, I think I look and I go, formal education is not always going to be the path for everybody. I know brilliant people who cannot take tests. I know people who plenty smarter than me who will not pass, who will not get no grades the way I got. And that's okay. But I tell people that, look, the reality of life is you have to figure out a way to feed yourself. So whatever it is that you are passionate about, if it is that you can feed yourself, you are going to have to throw all of yourself into it. If it's music, if it's poetry, if it's art, whatever it is. And my broadcasting career is sort of testament to that, Because I don't know that when I started broadcasting, I thought that I would be here 20 years later. 20 years is a long time. It's the only thing I've done for that long. I didn't run this long. But I look at how I got here and I realize that it's the same thing of inserting your passion into what it is you want to achieve. So when I started broadcasting, I looked around and I said, okay, what's your why? Why do you want to be a broadcaster? And people in the early going thought, oh, well, yeah, well, you used to be on TV as an athlete, and that's what you want to be now. You want people to still see you. You want people to say, hey, look, Ato Boldon. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, 20 years in, when we don't have what we call an on-camera, where you're actually going to see us broadcasting, I rejoice because I don't care about being on camera. You know why? Because that's not my job. Nobody not tuning in to see me. They're tuning in to see the athletes. And the way that I can say I use my passion to further my broadcasting is analyzing my why and having the right why. My why for broadcasting is, okay, I can no longer run, right? How else am I going to share my passion for the sport I love the most with the rest of America, with the rest of the globe, and with my audience? That is why I broadcast. So when you tune in and you see me on NBC, calling Usain Bolt, screaming at the top of my lungs, or calling Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, or talking about Jareem or whoever, you are seeing me, the same passion that I ran with is the same passion that I broadcast with. So to answer your question about education or being well-spoken or any of that, everybody don't have to be well-spoken, and everybody has, I'm a firm believer that everybody has gifts. Whether you realize them or not and not just realize them, because some people realize their gifts and squander them. Realizing your gifts and developing your gifts. That's what matters. Because listen, I talk to my athletes about this all the time. You see that R word, regret? To me, it's the saddest thing ever. You know how many people see me at the airport or some function? Hey, Ato, I used to run and thing, but and now here comes the regret. Well, I want to smoke a little weed, or I wasn't serious, or I like to, and I think to myself, wow, you ought to tell that story for the rest of your life. And I caution young people and I warn young people, you don't want to be that adult that has to walk around and tell the story of what dream they had that they never realized, because quite frankly, they didn't apply it themselves, right? They didn't have the discipline. They didn't have the stick-to-itiveness, if I could use that word, to get them where they are. And I remind my young sprinters, I am going to be a 4-time Olympic medalist long after I am gone, right? That's forever. I am going to be my country's first world championship medalist forever. I'm going to be my country's first gold medalist in the world championships forever. That lives on in perpetuity. As long as I plan it, that will be, right? You know what I don't remember? The work. I don't remember the pain. And I can remember vaguely how hard running 5 times 300 meters is. I can remember vaguely how hard running a 400 meters with a real quarter miler next to me is. But that pain fades. So it's like, as Muhammad Ali said so eloquently, suffer through the pain as a young person to achieve your goals and live the rest of your life as a champion. I read where Muhammad Ali said that early in my life, and I was like, he's right. That's why you have all this energy when you're young. So you can burn through it to gain altitude, to achieve your dreams. I don't feel like I've ever worked a job in my life. And I don't say that to brag. I say it almost sheepishly, almost guilty. Like, what do I have to complain about? My first job was running. I love that. My second job is broadcasting and coaching. I love those two things. So because I have applied myself, because maybe I've done without, because maybe I've sacrificed some things, and to be honest, they didn't feel like sacrifices. Look at how I'm able to live the rest of my life. So I feel like I have that part of life at least I figured out.
So, and as you said that, as you have that figured out, spiritually, what advice you'd give to young people in terms of believing in God and trusting in God to get them where they need to be?
I think if I look back at my own life, I have always felt like God is your training wheels, right? I remember teaching my daughter to to ride a bike. And yeah, when you first kind of get going, those are your training wheels. God and your spirituality is your training wheels, where you lean too far left, lean too far right, you get off balance. That is what should what should correct you. People feel like, yeah, I have it from here, and they take off the training wheels. I have been smart enough to, maybe my training wheels are not the size they were when I was learning to ride a bike at whether it is 4 or 5. But yeah, you want your training wheels, to kind of stay on, because all of us need some course correction sometimes. All of us slip, all of us fall. And I've always felt like that's the thing that has kind of kept me on the straight and narrow on my path and in my journey.
Ato, if you were to go back in time, right, what will you tell your younger self? You're advising your younger self. What will you tell your younger self?
Focus on the 200 more and stop studying the 100 all the damn no, I would tell myself that, because I look at somebody like Don Quarry from Jamaica, who has this Olympic goal in the 200, and I think, yeah, because he was smart enough to go, yeah, I go dabble in the 100, but the 200 is my focus, and that's where I can be an Olympic champion. In Sydney, I had no business doing both, because that leg was not right from the year before. Sydney happened in September, October, which is not the Australian summer, that is the Australian spring. Was cold, and that leg did not do well. And if I had 4 rounds in me, I should have spent them in the 200. Ignore the 100. I would have only had 3 medals, but I feel like I could have won the 200 with the effort and the emotion I spent in the 100. But what I would really tell myself is, enjoy the journey more. Because I feel like, and that's my personality, I've had to overcome that. Enjoy the journey more. You're only going to pass here once. You're only passing that particular place in your life one time. Enjoy the journey, because you will be better off for it. I think because I tend to be more serious about my work than maybe I should be. I got very, very obsessed with that quest. The quest for the Olympic gold, the quest for the world record, the quest. And now I look back and I go, yeah, you enjoy looking back at your career, but did you enjoy it during? Maybe not as much as you could. So I would tell my younger self to enjoy it a little bit. I get, you could say stop and smell the roses. You could say, why so serious? All of those things apply to me in my 20s.
And to the young people who have statistic, could be their coaches, their peers, saying things that are not encouraging to them, how do you advise a young person to deal with negative things being said to them? Could be the media, could be their classmates, could be on the track next to them. What would you advise them? How would you advise them?
I had to learn this very early in my own life. It is called your dream for a reason. It is called your goal for a reason. I think as human beings, we automatically assume that if you have a goal or a dream, that the people closest to you are going to be supportive. And if you have that, you are blessed, and congratulations to you. but we have an entire library full of people in whom nobody believed, and they figured it out anyhow. So I guess my advice is remember your why, and remember that sometimes human nature is such that it is a lot easier for me to see my dream. It is a lot more difficult for me to see your dream. So sometimes that can sound like, and it can look like, your mother or your father or your brother or your uncle or your best friend not believing in you. It's not necessarily that. It's that they don't see it as clearly as you see it. I am pretty sure that my family, when I kind of told everybody, yeah, I'm going to be in the Olympics and I am going to be a professional runner. Well, we had never had that in our family. And if you think about it, we had never really had that. I don't want to say as a country because we had Ian Morris and we had Patrick DeLeese and those guys, but I look at my own career and I went, yeah, I was an example in a way that a lot of people were not, because there was a kind of an amateur era in track and field, and I sort of ushered in the new era of, yes, he has 10 sponsors and he has 3 commercials, and you're going to be seeing his face a little bit more than you've ever seen any other track and field athlete, certainly in the media. So I always had to remember that, look, it's not everybody not going to see this as clearly as you. I am sure my family must have been thinking, boy, you go to law school or whatever, whatever dream they had for me or where they saw me as, okay, we could see him doing this. He can be a lawyer or a pilot or whatever it is. And I kind of had to stick to, no, I know what I want for myself. And it's okay if you don't see it. As long as I have enough gumption and enough stick-to-itiveness to put one foot in front of the other, I am going to make my progress and nothing is going to stop me. So I do understand, and I feel like in the years that I've spoken to young people, I have more of that now than I used to in the last 2 decades prior. It's like, yeah, my father don't feel like, this is it for me. I said, well, it's not your father's dream, eh? And it would be great if your father is supporting you and if your father is your biggest fan. But you're gonna spend the rest of your life saying that you didn't achieve your own dreams because of somebody else. I said that is not that shouldn't be.
And was it in cricket they have this sledging and so, but have you ever experienced while being on the track somebody next to you trying to throw you off your game, so to speak, and saying something that, let's say, out of timing, but I'll put it that nice. But do you have any experiences like that? Somebody saying something and it kind of threw you for a loop?
Did you watch my era of sprinting? It's not like now everybody sings Kumbaya and holds hands, even though they hate each other as much. And it's not a genuine hate. It's that this is not a team sport. It can have 10 other people to help you. It is me versus you, and there's only one spot at the top of the podium. So there's a natural animosity and a natural rivalry that is built into the sport. Certainly in the sprints where you have 9 seconds or 19 seconds to get it right. But oh please, every one of my early interactions with a senior sprinter was one that was almost like, I gave you the Linford example. He wasn't trying to, he didn't know who I was. I was just somebody who was annoying him in the courtroom. But the truth is, sprinters walk into the arena trying to intimidate whoever they can. And I came up in the era of Linford. Linford would stand out there like a Greek god. And he's just, he's looking at the finish line and he's oblivious to everything else. That can be intimidating to somebody who's not used to it. I mean, Dennis Mitchell used to jump around and make, if you were not on your game, I could see how somebody like a Dennis Mitchell would throw you off. So that all comes from, I think, being confident in yourself. And I think Trinbagonians have a natural confidence. You look at a steel band performance. You look at a Carnival Monday or Carnival Tuesday. We don't lack confidence. Confidence is just not something we lack for. And I think I was able to tap into my Trininess. It's actually one of the things that to kind of circle back the conversation that bothered me the most, because when the criticism of me at the height of my career was, God, but he's so arrogant, he's so cocky, he's so confident, I used to think to myself, Trini's not confident. That is what we do. So it always bothered me that, to me, it was like I was being held up as a reflection of my people, and somehow they didn't like what they were seeing. And I was thinking, but where I learned to be this confident from is Trinidad I learned it from. That is what runs through here. So that was never going to bother me. I kind of laughed at stuff. Michael Johnson was another one. You know, he talked about getting in the danger zone, and I would look at Michael and be like, Michael, you're fast, but you're not beating me up. That kind, that kind of way. So that kind of stuff never bothered me, because to me, I always had, and that's from birth. I have people tell me stories now about me young and me in high school, and I go, "There's no way I said that," and they go, "Yeah, you said that." I have always had confidence. Has never been my problem, so that was never going to bother.
Is there any, and Ato, before we finish, is there any like project you're working on now that's very, very dear to your heart, that you want to, I'm going to finish my career? Anything that's dear to your heart? You still talked about coaching earlier.
Well, I no longer coach sprinters because it got very difficult for me with when I was coaching Brianna Williams, who got a gold medal with the Jamaican 4x1 at age 19, and that she was my project from about, I think I coached her for about 6 or 7 years. She's now being coached in Jamaica. I actually was on the track with her yesterday because she's visiting here. She's visiting home here because she's going to World Indoor Championships, which start on Friday. I enjoy coaching now. I enjoy coaching my NFL players because I love NFL football, which I never thought I would. Because when I came here, I was like, this game don't make no sense. These big men running into each other with this thing called football, but it is truly ball. I was a typical immigrant when I landed here, and now I literally have like 2 or 3 clients that play on every team, because I'm part of a group called Test Football, and they are leader in the industry with getting guys who are done with university trying to go to the NFL. I genuinely enjoy that. Yes, it can get tough, and every year I go, oh, I'm probably gonna quit this year, and then I go through another year of track and field. I get tired of track and field. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward in January to. I like being able to say, that's my client. Like sometimes one guy subs out and I go, okay. I was like, oh shoot, another client just came back in. I like being able to watch TV and watch guys who, I mean, I am not responsible for their success, but I certainly help them get to where they are. And that's I find that very gratifying. I have a project now called Footspeed. Essentially, if I had to explain it to you, it is, forget time for a second. Imagine, I want you to just picture this setting. Let's say we block off a relatively well-paved road in Port of Spain, and we put down this track that's only about, let me say, 20 to 30 meters, and then forget time and forget the racing. Everybody's going to run from 0 to this point 30 meters away, and we're going to go on miles per hour that you hit. And the person that hits the highest miles per hour gets that money in cash. So if you run 19 miles per hour, we give you $19,000. And every day, whoever is the leader, whoever has the fastest miles per hour, that person wins for the day. But it's a global competition. So that is the project that I'm working on. It has the backing of people with a lot more money than me, including some billionaires. And that is coming very soon to television. Just a question of where. I'm also part of a huge Netflix series. I don't know how many of you guys are into Formula One. The guys who did that Formula One Netflix series, which is amazing, they're doing one on sprinters. And I am not only sort of a guest on the show. It looks now like I am going to be almost the narrator to kind of carry you through the story. So I'm very excited about that. But I made a decision when I turned 49. I said everything I do now has to be a legacy project. So I am a part owner at Test Football. I am a part owner in foot speed. Everything that I get involved in now, I want that long after I am gone, my heirs are making money off of it. I want it to be part of my legacy. So I'm very excited about those projects.
Ato, I want to bring it back to Trinidad and Tobago a little bit. We are dealing with crime now, and a lot of young people are thinking about going that route. And you sitting, in New York and like people who are abroad, like, what's going on back home? What advice you'd have to young people who may have started to go down the road of crime a little bit, but it's not too late for them? What advice do you have for those young people?
I think it goes back to passions, huh? Because I have seen people who start on the wrong path and a judge gives them a chance, or a lawyer gives them a chance, or a policeman or a policewoman gives them a chance. And the way they correct their lives and get their lives back on track is, okay, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where do I want to be 10 years from now? What do I want out of this thing called life? Now, listen, you're not going to reach everybody. There's some of them who go, I don't care. I am mad at the world because life dealt me a bad hand. Maybe I was born addicted to drugs. I was born into unfortunate circumstances. I am a believer you cannot reach everybody as much as you would love to try. God knows I have tried in my own life to reach people who, it's like if somebody's determined to go in that direction, sometimes it's like, okay, I look at it as being like a shepherd. It's like you would love if you have 100 sheep to save all the sheep. The truth is that if you save 97, 98 of them, you're doing a good job as a shepherd. The way that those people who maybe have started on the wrong path get back is, one, they have somebody who invests some time into them. When I was kind of floundering, everybody assumes that I always knew what I wanted to do. That was not the case. I was liming with guys who maybe did not have their goals set as high as I did. And a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, his name is Millard Hampton. Millard Hampton, talking about Hazley and talking about Hazley in 76 and talking about Don Quarry in 76. The guy who got the silver medal behind the guy from Jamaica, Don Quarry, who won the 276, is a guy called Millard Hampton. And Millard Hampton grew up in San Jose and went to high school in San Jose. And he saw me kind of hanging out with the wrong guys. He's like, yes, I had lofty goals. And he said, hey, I want you to come and do a ride along with me. And he took me for a ride along in that police car. And he sat me in the back. He sat me in the back in where he would have the criminals or the accused. And I've never forgotten it. That had to be, might have been 93, 94. That's probably 30 years ago. I've never forgotten it. Why? Because this person took their time to show me, hey, this is what your reality could be. Back of a squad car, and he took me on a ride along where, he had to pull his gun on somebody who threatened him or who tried to run away. And I just looked at that and I went, oh no, this is not what I want for my life. People who get back to the why and what they want out of their life, as long as they have just one person who's willing to pour into them, that usually, I have seen people go from, you're sure this person gonna be in the grave or in jail, to now this person is mentoring people and telling their story to keep other people kind of on the straight and narrow. I tend to be a little cynical, not when it comes to human beings. I am an eternal optimist. I always feel like, hey, give this person a little bit of grace, because people are, one, worth saving, and two, most people can be saved.
That's brilliant. That's well said. Did Gervais or Rahul wants to ask you a question? Gervais, unmute and ask, please. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
I was just wondering, when let's say you're in the final when you're on the blocks before the race, what goes through your mind? Because you have how many other people in the stands. It's only 10 seconds at most. What goes through your mind before a race?
You run 10 seconds, you're probably not on the podium. It's a good question. The truth is that by the time I get to the line, that work has already been done. You know how think of the last exam that you really aced, right? Think of the last exam you couldn't wait for the exam because it was like, I have prepared, I have studied, I know the course forward and backward, I pay attention, I have notes. That is a good example of what it feels like to step to the line. And is it intimidating? Absolutely it is. I've always said, I hope to never be on death row, but I am pretty sure that the same feeling you get in your stomach when they say, hey, time to walk to the gas chamber is the same feeling you get when they say, okay, men's 100-meter final, please follow me. Nobody can help you. Your money can't help you. Your mother can't help you. Your father, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband. Nobody can help you. You know what matters then? How well have you prepared? So to answer your question, once you get out to that line, you've already done the work. And if you've done the work one and you execute the race properly, then you will get the result. So I was never out there worried like, oh gosh, look who is to my left and look who is to my right. It was I can't wait, and that's what tripped me up in Atlanta. I couldn't wait for that gun to sound. Sometimes I was too eager. Because the truth is, if you have done the preparation, you welcome the test. So it's just like taking a big exam. If you have done the proper preparation and you know you're ready for this thing, then you can't wait to walk out there. Yes, there's an intimidation factor because you have billions of people watching and whatever it is, 100,000 people in the stands, not to mention the 7 people you have to run against. But I look back at old races and I feel the adrenaline come in, even though obviously, I could watch the Olympics now and I'm like, ugh. You know what the last I checked, video does not change and the result's not going to change, but it's a natural thing to have the fear. But to me, the fear is proof that it matters because I knew it was time to retire when I wasn't. I remember stepping to the line in a race and I was like, I don't care. I do not care what happens here. And I have no fear of the outcome and I have no, it's just kind of like blah. So yeah, the truth is that if you're thinking at that point, it's too late. Because that has to be instinctive. All the things that you do once the gun sounds, those are instinctive, but it's the preparation that gets you on the podium.
And Ato, let me just open up the floor to, very quickly to anybody who would like to ask a question. And while they're thinking about what question they may want to ask quickly, Ato, look into the camera and convince young people that, yes, you have a stadium named after you. Yes, you're world famous. Yes, you're working with world athletes. They have the same chance that you have. I want you to really convince them for me because you've done a fantastic job so far, but just this person where they need to hear something from you, please.
The person that you look up to, no matter who it is, goes through the same struggles that you go through. Everybody struggles with not being confident, being wary of unforeseen circumstances, being disappointed at disappointing outcomes. But the people who you look to that you think have been overnight successes, or the people who you look to and you think, that is where I want to be, or that is an example of somebody who has made it, every single one of them can tell you the story of when they thought maybe it would not happen for them. So once you understand that people are all the same, and yes, some people are exceptionally gifted and other people are not. Everybody has the capacity in them. Everybody, I believe, has the capacity in them for greatness. The question is, are you really willing? Are you really willing to pay the price that is necessary to achieve the desired outcome? I'm going to use a very, very recent example. I have a client. He just finished 8 weeks with me. And he is by far my most disappointing client this year. Not because he's not talented, but because he will not focus. Of all the, and we have maybe 30 people, of all the people in that group, he's the most physically gifted. I looked at him and I said, if I was you, if I had your physical gifts, they'd call me Usain Bolt. He had everything given to him, no focus. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, if I could take his gifts and put it in the body of somebody with fewer gifts, but who had the heart, who had the head, and more importantly, who had the determination, I could rule the world. So a lot of the times people sell yourself short because in your mind, you don't measure up, not realizing that everybody, for the most part, is the same. That person, that artist, that actor, that business person, that athlete that you think has all, they're so blessed and they got all these gifts and they were just like you, but they figured it out with a combination of the head and the heart and the determination. So what you have to do is to not believe the myth and to not buy into the myth of somehow because of where you're born or because of where you or because of your circumstances or because of your relative lack of confidence at a certain age, that somehow you can do it. There's libraries full of people who are plenty worse off than you, and somehow they did it. So if people with less than you can do it, then it kind of logically follows that as long as you see, the gap between the want and the did, the big gap sometimes is, are you willing to pay the price? Because most people, as we said at the top of the interview, the minute it gets hard, they go, no. And I've seen it a million times. And people will talk a good game. No, coach, I know I want to work. I know you never see anybody who's going to work as hard as I will. And I always have the same response. We'll see. Because anybody can talk it. When the pain hits, when you're on that 5th rep and you have to get to 6, that's when you show me if you're really about it. Because the truth is, most people, they go, no, this is going to kill me. And I go, it's not going to kill you. And not only will it not kill you, you are going to be stronger for having gotten through. That's another big example in my life. All of the things that I thought, man, I cannot do this. How am I going to do this? You buckle down, you get help, you figure it out, you use your own gifts. And then once you get on the other side of having accomplished it, you look in your rearview mirror and you go, if I can accomplish that, bring on the next thing. So that would be my advice to young people who feel like, I can't do it. It's like, yes, you can. Just get over yourself and get to work.
So that was, how can I say? You're talking on my paws raised because it's not only inspiring to young people, it's inspiring to our nation because, people in different walks of life and look at life like, it's too hard and I keep getting lemons all the time, but not knowing with
life
the
is
lemons.
Precious, man. Life is precious and none of us is passing this way again. As we know, we ain't passing this way again. So don't waste it. I see people wasting time. Listen, I sympathize with this generation, I am a tech guy and I am a gamer. And I really was back in the day. And I look at some of these games now and I go, I'm not so sure if these games look like this when I was young, if I would have been any athlete, no? Because the distractions now are they're immeasurable. Right? There's so many distractions now, and I go, yeah, but you had to know for yourself. Them games gonna be. I used to always remember this guy telling me, yeah, when you're watching them people on TV, just remember they had their million already, yeah? So you watching them, they have their million, and you sitting down wasting your time watching them. You know how many TV shows that got me to turn off? It's like, click. Let me go out there and try and get my million. So yeah, it's a lot of distractions for young people now. You have to be even more disciplined than I was back in the day. You have to be, because everything is trying to take your attention somewhere else.
And I thought, I know we went over the time a little bit. Can you just give a quick advice to the people, parents, coaches who work with these young people? What advice you have for us as adults who work with young people?
I think there's a tendency for older people to want to always fit younger people into their box, into their sort of what makes sense to them. And my mother raised me and my brother with a philosophy that I think I have adapted to my own children, and a philosophy that I think works. None of my children are going to be sprinters. None of them are even going to be athletes. Not because none of them were good athletes. In fact, my oldest was athlete of the year in her high school in 2 sports, just like me. And as soon as she was done with high school, she was like, okay, right, I'm done with that. And everybody else in the family was like, what? But you were doing so well. And she was like, you see this last name? I don't really like it. I don't like the pressure of, oh, wait a minute, so your father is Ato, that kind of way. And I said, and I think she came to me thinking that I was going to be upset. And I was like, good for you. Did nobody push me or pull me in this direction? So good for you. And she now has an entire career in special effects in movies and in television. And I go, yeah, see, if her father had tried to put her into this little box of, yeah, you're going to be a sprinter, then she would have missed out on that. I think parents and guardians and coaches have to remember this. And I'll go back to what the philosophy of my mother. My mother said, and I don't know if she read this or if this is what she came to this conclusion on her own. My mother said, raising children is like flying a kite. Hold it too tight and it will do nothing interesting. If you hold on to that line, that string too tight, the kite goes up there and yeah, the wind hits it, but it never really does anything. She's a believer of, look, hold on to the string or strings. Let the child know that you are certainly guiding them and you are in charge. But by all means, let them dance in the wind a little bit. I think of some of the resistance that I got to, I mean, I could imagine if I had gone and told them, if I had told them I was going to be a broadcaster, maybe they might have been a little bit more receptive. But I remember that everybody wasn't too thrilled when I came with this whole track and field thing because it was not something they could envision. There had never been somebody in our family who had ever been a professional track and field athlete. So of course, when I come to them with that, they're like, huh? Okay. And so my advice then goes back to, don't feel like everything that a young person does has to conform with how it was for you. And I've had to learn that as a parent and as a coach. It's like, okay, so I'll give you a great example. When I was coming up, my coach was like, I want you focused. I don't want you with no set of headphones and warming up with music. I want you focused on the race. That's how I was raised. I did not do that with my athletes because now these athletes are a little different and they have on the AirPods. That is how this generation operates. I get it. So instead of me saying, no, you're going to do it my way, I had to kind of become a little bit more flexible and go, okay, I'm still taking them to the same goal, but it's not going to look the same. It's a different generation. They're younger. They respond to different things. They have different influences. So I feel like I was able to be I got the results that I got as a coach were good because I was able to separate myself and my overall philosophy from what I was getting in terms of feedback from my athletes and my kids, because it's not always going to be the way you want it. And I think that a lot of the times when I see an athlete and a coach butting heads, or I see a parent and a child butting heads, I don't always go to the child. And yes, sometimes we know how kids are, and sometimes the child is wrong. But a lot of the times I go to the parent and I go, listen, okay, all right. He's not going to do it your way, or she's not going to do it your way. can you guys find some kind of a compromise on, okay, that's not the most important thing in the world. Give up that, and then okay, on the other side, maybe the child will give you some of what it is you have to have, as opposed to what you want to have. So yeah, that is definitely a thing, and I have experienced it myself, and I've also been able, luckily, to counsel both parties in those situations on, look, guys, let me compromise a little bit. It's not the end of the world.
Fatu, we know how well you were with your feet. We have a little challenge for you. So everybody on it, right, including Nicholas, who's raring to go. We're going to type in the chat. Everybody has to type 10 times, I have greatness in me. And wait till I say go. I'm going to be the starter. Ato is going to be involved as well.
I want to see who winning this now.
Yeah, so, hey, guys, Ato won on the track. Let's see if we can win him on the computer. So get ready. I'm going to start in 10 seconds. Get ready. So you just have to type, no copy and pasting. You got to type 10 times, I have greatness in me. And as soon as you finish, say finish. I want you to unmute and say finish. In fact, everybody could unmute. I want you to say finish. Sharon, get ready. Sharon Barber Phillips does an excellent job. Yes. So you see what Ato is doing? He's showing his hands.
You gotta show your hands and make sure you ain't cheating.
So, yeah, gotta show your hands. All right, Jabez ready. Jabez cracking his thumbs, cracking his fingers. So this is gonna be interesting. All right, ready and go. You gotta say 10 times, 10 times, 10 times.
Or 10 times.
10 times. Come, guys, y'all in the front. Y'all in the front. After my catch-up. Come on, Ato.
First of all, I spelled it wrong. And second of all, I was off the podium in fourth.
Do we have a winner? Somebody got to admit and say finish. Come on. Do we have a winner?
I think we had to get to Nicholas, because look how much Nicholas got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's a lot of count.
I think Nicholas is the winner, man. Just by my eye test, I think Nicholas is the winner.
1-6.
10 times. Where are you, Jove? Where are you, Jove?
I think I'm done. I think.
Right, yeah, you got to count as well.
We're going to go to the photo finish for that one.
And so on that note, yeah, great job, guys. On that note, just tell them what is that statement they mean. What does that really mean? That statement they just typed. The statement that they just typed, I have greatness in me. Just tell them what does that really mean?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was just talking about, where when you are a young person, you look up to people who are older or more accomplished, and you think, wow, I wonder if one day I could ever achieve on that level. I wonder if one day I could, do that, see them kind of things, do that. And the truth is that everybody has the capacity, as I said, you just have to figure it out. And so, listen, some young people figure it out very early. Some young people figure it out very late. But I feel like everybody figures it out eventually. And if you use the gifts that you have to develop that greatness, that's where you get exceptional people. I don't feel like I was given any exceptional gifts per se. I feel like I had exceptional resolve. And that word is an important word. We haven't used it yet. We've been using other words to kind of convey that. Resolve. I am not going to nobody ain't gonna just be able to knock me off. Listen, my first Olympics, the headline in The Guardian was Boldon flatters to deceive. It's not like everybody welcomed me with open arms. I was seen as a failure because, oh my gosh, I went to the Olympics at 18, I didn't do well. Well, yeah, so did a lot of people, including Usain Bolt and a lot of other people who eventually, Michael Johnson didn't do well at his first Olympics. In fact, he didn't make the final. He went back and never so much as lost an Olympic final after that. So yeah, there is a tendency to kind of feel like that person has reached heights that I will never reach. Nobody who ever thought like that ever accomplished anything.
Ato, just quickly, any final words? Final words from you.
Well, there may be some people who are looking at this and they're thinking, well, wow, how did they get Ato to do this? And the truth is, I never miss an opportunity to influence along a young life. That's another thing that I've never compromised on. So whether I am speaking to an audience of 3 billion whether I'm speaking to an audience of 1 million, whether I'm speaking to an audience of 1, I tend to be very grateful for the opportunity to share my journey. I know how many people poured into me to get me here. And to me, it is not my choice, it is my obligation to make sure that I am continuing to pour into anybody else who is willing to learn from my journey or to get any kind of advice from me. So that is why this was so important for me to do.
Ato, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, we want to thank you for I mean, this is things you said, my pause, is just raised because it's very motivational, very inspirational because there are people who need to hear that there is hope. And you have certainly encouraged me to continue this program. And I want to thank all the people that are on the Zoom, people who are on YouTube, live on YouTube. Thousands of people are going to watch this interview. And Ato, I'm telling you, said many things that is going to go on and in our minds. Champions, that's one stuck for me. Champions are convinced. Right? Don't take no for an answer. And the young people out there who you're thinking of going down the wrong road, Ato is living proof that if you really put your mind to it, it's literally believe and achieve. And Ato, what you're achieving for us, you have us proud. Obviously, the stadium named after you is always in use, and you always hear about the Ato Boldon Stadium, but we are very happy to hear about the Ato Boldon story because, as you say, it's not that far from where you are, from where they are, once they're willing to put the work in. And that is 100%. You've convinced me, and I'm sure you've convinced all our listeners that we have many Ato Boldons, Dwight Yorks, Brian Lara's, Kamasha Robertson, all these different people who have gone on to excel in sport. You have convinced us, Ato, and again, keep doing what you're doing. We really need more of you, right? And of course, you're doing your stuff. Then I know when you can, you'll come and you'll do what you can and give some advice to the running association and to the Olympic Committee. Keep doing that. You're seeing it on a whole different level. Ato, we are really, really proud of you. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dion, for that nice for the nice reception and for having this. And both yourself and your brother, I have known you guys for a long time, and the reason why when you call, I will always be there is because I have sort of from afar admired all of the work that you have put in. Some of it with as you and I know, some of it with very little gratitude and with very little exposure. But I have watched you over the years. You have continued to keep young people as a focus. And quite frankly, the only way that we're going to turn our country back around into the right direction is young people. It's not us. It's the young people that have to turn it around. And I think they look at the country and they go, this is not the country that my parents grew up in, and it's certainly not the country my grandparents grew up in. And somebody is going to come to the forefront and say, I am going to be the one that is going to turn the country around. So thanks to you for all that you have done as well.
Thank you very, very much. And everybody, if you want to put something in the chat, please put it in the chat quickly so Ato can read it. You want to say some vote of thanks? Please put it in the chat quickly, please. Anything you would like to say to Ato, please go ahead. Or you want to unmute and say something? Gervais, how could I act? Gervais, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you unmute and give a little vote of thanks on behalf of young people to Ato, please? Gervais.
Oh, wow. Really put him on the spot.
I just want to say thank you for obviously taking the meeting and talking to us and sharing, all the countless decades of wisdom you have. Because all of us, we do need guidance in sports and to grow up. And I just want to say thank you for sharing with us.
The best thanks all of you can give to me is the next time that something challenges you, you remember some of what was said today and you apply it. That is the best thanks you can get. Talking is what I do, but action to me is what is the real proof. So you want to thank me, that's how you thank me. Next time you have some real adversity, remember all that was said in here and apply it.
Thank you very much. So on that note, we would like to say thank you again very sincerely on behalf of everyone, all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, whether you're in sport or not in sport. You have inspired a nation, and Ato, this is going to go to the television houses, and they'll use it as they see fit. But this is going to be an inspiration for many, many years to come. Again, thank you very much. On behalf of Nicholas, who's been behind the scenes, and Nicholas is the social media guy and putting all these things together. Nicholas, I want to thank you very, very much. Yeah, fantastic job. And we are going to go to our next show. We'll be with Wendy Fitzwilliam on the 10th of March. And we look forward to
I might have to tune in for that one, man.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Wendy. That's great.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And you inspire me, to be 100% honest, Ato, you inspire